Week 8 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking this week. Number 1, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. Last week, a monster game it was for Aubrey. Hit a 61-yarder in that one versus the Washington Commanders. And this week, with the altitude in Denver, it wouldn't be surprising if they trotted him out there for a 70-yarder. That's just how good he is as a kicker, is Brandon Aubrey. And this week at Denver, I believe this could be a high-scoring game between these two teams. Number 2, Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Chase McLaughlin, the last 3-4 weeks, he's been one of the better kickers in the league. He's on a high-powered offense. Last week's ball game, he hit a 53-yarder pretty easily at the Detroit Lions. And this week, another indoor game at the New Orleans Saints, where obviously anytime you don't have to deal with the elements, it's a good thing. So this week, I think McLaughlin, he goes out there, and once again, he'll get his opportunities, and it seems like weekly he's hitting a 50-yarder. Number 3, Eddie Pinheiro of the San Francisco 49ers. Eddie Pinheiro, it's been a good signing for them after they moved on from Jake Moody early in the season. And Pinheiro, he's got a lot of double-digit fantasy games already. So this Niner offense, they've been stalling out more times than not in the red zone and at the goal line, and Eddie Pinheiro has made the most of his opportunities in hitting field goals. So this week, another indoor game as well at Houston, which is always a plus. Number 4, Cameron Dicker of the Los Angeles Chargers. So it's been a weird season for Dicker. Some weeks he has some big ball games, and some weeks he's relegated to a couple extra points and maybe like a 30, 40-yard field goal. So this week in a matchup versus Minnesota, Thursday Night Football, those are usually high-scoring games, and another dome game for a kicker here. That's what you want to see, obviously. Kickers indoors, they don't have to deal with outside stuff, and the way you kick it, the ball is true. So this week versus Minnesota, bend but don't break defense more weeks than not. I think Dicker will get more opportunities this week. Number 5, Kareem Fairbairn of the Houston Texans. So Fairbairn, one of the better kickers in the league. He's another guy, 55, 60 yards isn't a problem for him. With a bend but don't break defense of the San Francisco 49ers, even though we know Joey Bosa and Warner are out for the season for this defense, they're still going out there. Teams are being held to field goal attempts, and right now, Kareem Fairbairn, like I said, he's got unlimited range, and he's a good option this week. Once again, number 6, Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Boswell, one of the best kickers of all time from 60-plus yards. This Steeler offense, they've been playing better over the last few weeks. But Boswell, it seems like weekly, he's hitting at least a 50-yarder, some extra points, and either a 30, 35-yarder. So this week in a matchup versus a bend but don't break Green Bay defense for the majority of the season, I think opportunities are going to be there for Boswell once again. And he's been a good kicker for his whole NFL career. Number 7, Will Lutz of the Denver Broncos. So this week, a great matchup with the Dallas Cowboys coming in. Anytime you could kick, obviously, in Denver, you're going to get some extra carry on that football. And we saw last week, Lutz walked it off with a game-winning field goal in that crazy victory versus the New York Giants. So this week with Dallas coming in, one of the worst defenses in the league, I think Denver's going to be in the red zone or at least field goal range early and often in that game. Number 8, Evan McPherson of the Cincinnati Bengals. So McPherson, he really hasn't been a fantasy option this season, is Evan McPherson. But this week, a great matchup versus the New York Jets. They give up the most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And Money Mac, we know he's got a big boot, and he was one of the better kickers a few seasons ago when he entered the league. But last year, a lot of extra points and a lot of touchdowns Joe Burrow in this offense scored. And now with Joe Flacco in there, we'll see if more opportunities will be there for field goals with McPherson, even though last week it was a lot of touchdowns in that ball game. But like I said, with a good matchup versus the Jets, I think McPherson will get a few opportunities in this one. Number 9, Michael Badgley of the Indianapolis Colts. So Michael Badgley, he's been solid since Spencer Schrader's been out for the season, but he really hasn't gotten tons of opportunities like Schrader was early in the year. Jonathan Taylor's finishing off a lot of drives in the end zone. Tyler Warren, he's been scoring a lot of touchdowns the last couple weeks. And this week versus Tennessee, they're going to be living in the red zone and field goal range is this Indianapolis Colts team. And obviously one of the better teams in the league, 6-1, number 10, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Butker, he's had some problems this season, missing a few extra points, missing some easy 30, 40-yarders as well. He's hit his 50-yarders for the most part, but now this Chief team, they're putting a lot of points on the board with just touchdowns over the last few weeks. And this week in a matchup versus the Commanders, where their defense really hasn't stopped anyone in the last couple weeks here, I think Harrison Butker, the ceiling isn't that high, but anywhere from 7 to 10 fantasy points in this one, still a decent number. Number 11, Will Richard of the Minnesota Vikings. So Richard, he's another kicker, 50-plus yards. has been easy for him since he's entered the league. And this week in a matchup indoors Thursday night should be a high-scoring game in Los Angeles. And this Charger defense has had their problems over the last few weeks keeping offenses out. So like I said, Richard, seems like every game he's hitting a 50-plus yarder. He's in a high-powered offense with guys like Justin Jefferson, Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Jordan Mason in the backfield. So this week at the Chargers, like I said, Thursday night, pretty much 4 out of 5 times, it's going to be a high-scoring game. And the 12th and final kicker I'm ranking is Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles. This Philadelphia Eagle offense, they turned it around last week. They had a big ball game in that one at the Minnesota Vikings offensively. And Jake Elliott, he's got a great career track record versus New York Giant defense. I know a couple weeks ago he didn't do much in that game, 2 extra points and only hit a field goal. But this week, Philly's at home. I think they want to revenge that loss they had a couple weeks ago. And Jake Elliott, like I said, he's had a good track record versus the New York Giants. And we know this New York Giant defense really can't stop anyone. We saw what Denver did to them last game, scoring 33 points in the fourth quarter. So that's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking for week 8 of the fantasy football season.